What if I told you the government paid a man $75,000 to look for signs of extraterrestrial life just to gaslight him into thinking his wife was an alien? Welcome to the first of its kind video on this channel. Today we're diving into the story of Paul Bennewitz and the conspiracy of the alleged Dulce base in New Mexico. This story is actually fucking ridiculous. Not only are you getting alien battles with the military, but you're also getting one of the saddest and most fucked up cases of manipulation I've ever read about. And it's just a man who thought he was doing the right thing. This is the first time I'm making a video like this, so let me know what you think. I'm super into strange and weird stories, whether they're fact or fiction. So going forward, I'm going to be making more content like this, or really whatever I want to talk about. Let's get into it. First off, information on this topic is extremely hard to find, and it's not like you can find any .gov websites to learn about this, so if anything is wrong, forgive me. Paul Frederick Bennewitz Jr. was born in New Mexico in 1927. Not much is known about his early life, but we do know he studied physics and electronics in college. That led him to start his own company, where he built precise environmental measurement instruments. Basically his devices were for testing equipment under different humidity and temperatures. So Paul's business wasn't for your average Joe. One of his clients was the Kirkland Air Force Base. I couldn't find an exact distance from his house, but several articles mentioned he could literally see parts of the base from his roof. Unfortunately for Paul, one of his side hobbies was investigating UFOs. He was part of a group called the APRO, Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization, which was considered one of the more credible UFO research groups. I don't know how you get that title, but they had it, and good for them. All of these overlapping interests would lead Paul down a path that would negatively affect him the rest of his life. For about a year, Paul recorded strange lights above the base in nearby Coyote Canyon test range. That range was used for experimental tech, by the way, so we've just got a guy filming strange lights above this secret military testing range, and he thought that was a good idea. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and say maybe he didn't know that it was a military testing thing, but whatever. Along with the lights, Paul picked up strange radio transmissions he believed were coming from extraterrestrials. Paul came to believe there was a highly organized underground base being run by aliens. Apparently, there were already rumors among locals about there being some underground stuff going on. From what I can see, most locals didn't believe they were aliens underground. Most locals just thought the government had stuff going on underground, I guess. So with Paul believing that he had found signs of aliens living underground, he did what anyone else would do, and he went and told the local Air Force base, which good on him. Before we go further into Paul's story, we need to talk about the Dulce. Also, I hope it's pronounced Dulce. I'm sorry if I think it has to be Dulce. It could be Duluce, but I'm sorry. Before we go further into Paul's story, we need to talk about the Dulce base conspiracy, which before we go deeper into Paul's story, we need to go over the Dulce base conspiracy, which really ties into everything. Dulce is a tiny town, just about 2,000 people in the 80s, mostly Native Americans.
Dulce is a quiet, unassuming town nestled in northern New Mexico. Many of its residents are members of the Jicarilla Apache tribe. They swear.
I tell stories, but my nose isn't growing.
There are some Native American beliefs that talk about beings living underground and sacred land in the mountains, but most of that is interpreted as spiritual, not literal beings being in the mountains. The first big whistleblower about the Dulce conspiracy was Phil Schneider, a former engineer who claimed he worked on military construction projects. One of them allegedly was the Dulce base. Now the timeline of events is super foggy and full of contradictions, so I'm gonna go off of what Phil himself said, but there's loads of different accounts over what happened, but I'm just going off of what Phil said. Phil claimed that while they were drilling during construction, Green Berets were stationed with his team, suggesting this was more than just his regular construction job. He claimed, and I quote,
"The large alien grays had been encamped there for as best as believed possible about 400 or 500 years.
And they accidentally drilled right on top of their base." He states that during drilling, large black smoke came spewing out of the... Is spewing a word? Am I making words? He said that while they were drilling, stinky black air began spewing out of the holes. They lowered themselves into the hole, and at the bottom was a 7-foot-tall gray alien.
The entity was absolutely horrible. I didn't waste any time or reach for my pistol.
Like, imagine somebody blows a hole in your house, and they just look at you, think you're ugly, and fucking shoot you. Phil says he shot and killed 2 aliens who were just standing there. After that, he makes like a motion of like a little kid saying their tummy hurts, and he says that When the aliens did that, they fired a blue laser that gutted him like a fish and cut off part of his hand, which in the interview, he's missing part of his hand, so pretty credible. He was allegedly saved by a Green Beret who sacrificed himself to get Phil back to the surface. According to Phil, 66 Green Berets died that day in what's known as the Battle for Dulce. Now, there are some versions of this story where they say the government was already working with aliens before this. I'm just going off of this one. Does the timeline matter when we're talking about aliens? Do you need specific dates and shit? In any case, according to Phil, the government struck a deal with 11 aliens. We get their technology, and in return, they get to abduct a few of us from time to time. But a psychological question for you: if people are getting abducted by aliens, but it's nobody you love or care about, does it matter? That has nothing to do with the video, I was just wondering. Like and leave a comment, let me know down below. Also, different accounts of this story say that the battle broke out while they were working together in this base because the government wasn't getting all the tech they wanted or something. I don't know. I'm telling you an alien story. You don't need perfect information. The base itself was supposedly made up of multiple underground layers. Each level had a different purpose, ranging from joint government alien experiments to straight up genetic crossbreeding. Here's a completely reliable diagram I found online of the base's layout, and yes, this is absolutely probably a real blueprint of the base. Trust. This looks like something I would have drawn in 3rd grade as my dream house, but either way, I do not fuck with the Nightmare Hall. Before we leave this rabbit hole, I just want to point out that Phil's death was suspicious as hell. He was found strangled to death by his own catheter tube. The official ruling was suicide, but his family doesn't buy it, and also he had access to firearms and his medication, so why the fuck would you fucking strangle yourself with your own catheter tube? Well, this was years after the whistleblowing. I don't think the government would kill him, but it's still a weird death. Anyway, let's get back to the man that really started this all, Paul. That candle is gonna kill me. This scent is so strong in this fucking tiny ass room. Okay, recap. Paul had just told the Kirkland Air Force Base about these aliens in their possible underground facility. So what do? They gave him $75,000 to continue his research. But here's the twist, that money wasn't for finding aliens, that money was used to discredit him. So they gave him money to discredit him. More on that in a second. Over the next 3 years, Paul became obsessed. He thought he was decoding alien transmissions, locating down UFOs in the desert, spotting strange lights. He genuinely believed an invasion was coming, and he was the only one who knew. This obsession consumed him. His relationship suffered. Eventually, Paul became convinced that his loved ones were secretly aliens, tampering with his electronics and running experiments on him. By the mid-1980s, he had a complete psychological breakdown. According to Project Beta by Greg Bishop, Paul barricaded himself in his home using sandbags, trying to protect himself from these alien attacks. But there were no aliens, and his wife definitely wasn't one of them. Paul had fully convinced himself of reality that didn't exist. He was hospitalized for a month and later released. From what I can find, he improved somewhat, but until the day he died, he believed that he had found alien life and had been experimented on. The saddest part, none of this was Paul's fault. That $75,000 wasn't for research, it was for disinformation. The lights he recorded weren't UFOs, the transmissions he heard weren't from aliens. It was all the military testing their stuff at the Kirkland Air Force Base. I just put that he was seeing stuff they were experimenting on, but it wasn't just that, they were actually faking UFOs. In the beginning, it was just Paul recording their stuff. I think they were working on drones or something. He just walked in with this proof that he had been doing something illegal, and he just handed it to him. He just straight up handed them their own sensitive material. And what happened next is honestly heartbreaking. Project Beta was carried out by, and I also have these two men's name. I'm not gonna say their names, I've decided, because it doesn't really matter for the story, and like these men were just being told what to do, so I'm not gonna put these guys on blast for something. The Air Force Base just actively gaslit Paul. They left fake UFO debris for him to find, they sent bizarre coded messages for him to decipher. Instead of telling Paul to stop, they doubled down, feeding him more lies and encouraging his delusions. They straight up elf on the shelf this man. Is like, you know, the parents move the elf on the shelf and then the kid tells the parents and they're like, oh my god, sweetie, that's so cool. That's literally the base. He would point out these UFOs that the government was doing and they'd just be like, that's cool. Here's $75,000. go do more. It just goes to show you how far the government is willing to go to protect its secrets. Their goal was to get Paul to spread this fake alien narrative so their real tech testing at the base would stay under wraps. And eventually they admitted this publicly. It was all just a cover-up to distract him from what was actually going on at the base. In the end, this wild UFO conspiracy turned into a deeply tragic story of a man who just wanted to protect his country. Whether you believe Paul actually uncovered an underground alien base, or whether the government just strung him along until he broke, this story reminds you that real or fake, you're always just a pawn in something bigger. Also, maybe just don't record military bases. Even if you think there's aliens, I don't fucking care if Godzilla's standing in the middle of the base. Just look the other way. If you stuck around this far, thank you so much for watching. It means a ton to me. This is my first video I've ever scripted and recorded with my face, and I keep twirling my hands because that's something people do when they talk. So if this was enjoyable, please like and subscribe so I continue making videos like this. It really does give me motivation to carry on what I do. I already have the next video planned. It's going to be a video that I'm actually more interested in this one. It's about plants. It's a twist. It's not just about plants. There's, you know, I'm doing horror. I'm doing like horror conspiracy stuff, so it'll be worth watching. And that's it for this one. Arrivederci.